All right, to do a quick introduction um, on Lily. So she is a native Alaskan writer of Inupiaq, Tlingit, and Nisga'a First Nations. I probably butchered those
Yeah,
pronunciations,
that's
descent. She lives in Anchorage and is from Point Hope, which is right on the western coast of Alaska. Driven by her mentor's words, she uses her creative writing skills to tell the stories of indigenous people. Her first novel, Sivulliq, Ancestor, was published in 2023. The story tells the tale of a Inupiaq family that survives the smallpox epidemic, only to struggle through the arrival of the American commercial whaling in their village. So let us give Lily a warm welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. I am anxious to talk about my writing and if there's time at all to talk about my writing process. Thanks for the invitation for this reading series. I've been looking at the authors that you've already featured, and it's a great program. Yeah, I'm so honored to be here and to talk to everybody and be part of that series. So is there any
I guess
any
if
type
you
of format that you wanted to go through? Because I can read from Sivulliq, or also do the presentation first, do the PowerPoint first.
if you want to talk about a little bit about your writing process and then start with the book, I think that would be good.
Okay, great. I have a PowerPoint presentation to share with you. I'm just clicking on share screen.
Yeah, like people go into the departments and go, what is that? They're like, well, that's brain.
Okay. You should be able to share. Nope, you're
Oh,
on mute.
oh, for some reasons, I guess doing the sharing, click something. Good evening. My name is Lily Tuzroyluke. Thank you so much for the introductions. And here is where I'm from. Like Professor said, I'm sorry, I tried to get the pronunciation of your last name. I am Inupiaq, from the Arctic slope of Alaska. I am from the village that is featured in Sivulliq, and my father was a full-blooded Inupiaq from Point Hope. And I'm also, my mother's side is from the Pacific Northwest. And I'm also Tlingit and Nisga'a. And I definitely wanted to mention that I'm an enrolled tribal member. That's important as an Indigenous person. And here's a short introduction of the presentation. And I'm so sorry. Um, so a lot of Sivulliq was figuring out how I am most productive as a writer. Sivulliq took me 2 years. That's a common question. Um, it did 2 solid years. But a part of that, most of that was learning what works best for me as a writer. And I do have a system because I need to have structure, and writing, creative writing, any type of writing is very self-disciplined. So I prefer word processing. I just like the clack, clack, clack of a keyboard and Word. Um, I've tried the notebooks and handwriting, but my mind like works. I'm like, this is taking too long. This is too slow for me. But I've heard people say that it helps them filter out what they're going to put on the page when they um when they use notebooks or journals. Also, audio is is something that I'm learning to explore. And nowadays with audible.com, there are books that are strictly audiobooks, and they don't have anything in hardback or in paperback. I had the opportunity to meet an author. Her name was Lil Morgan, and by the time I met her, she was already an established author. She was my publisher, and she had written a number of books. And when I submitted the manuscript to Epicenter Press, Sivulliq, they said, well, um, let's have some lunch and we can talk about a contract. And so I met Leo Morgan at this like upscale uh, restaurant for lunch. And she was elderly by then. And she said, "So when is your hour?" And as a writer, I knew exactly what she meant. Writers have like this certain time of the day that our mind is very clear, and mine is 11 p.m. um, so staying focused, I tend to set certain rules for myself, which I'll get further into. One of the most recent set of rules for me is in the editing process, the first editing process. And in those rules, as I was going through the first rough draft, is no research, no thesaurus, no dictionary, no fact checking. Um, you're just going to do simple sentences. And I just kind of have to have that structure in writing, because otherwise I'll fall into a rabbit hole. I tend to need to set numerical goals for myself. I usually, in my free writing process, as I'm building up a book, I will say I'm going to write 1,500 words in a document. I really like this goal that I heard from a playwright, and she said that she set 10 pages of dialogue each day. And I really like learning about other writers' process, and with her, she has to have like one of those yoga balls, and she has to take breaks for exercise. So these are just a few examples um, to keep my writing process structured. So we will have downtime, and I'm a single mother and an autism mother, and there's always going to be time where you can't sit at the computer and and work on your manuscript. So I will have lists built up, movies, TV shows, books. For Sivulliq, Bram Stoker's Dracula was written, that the story takes place in 1893 or 1892, the exact year as my book, which was a coincidence. I chose that year because my great grandmother, Lily Hank, was born on that year. So it was just by chance. But you have these times where you can't work on your manuscript. And so it's nice to have this as a way to look at what are they wearing in the era? What are they, what's their slang? And so I have these lists curated and in different, like for the library or for streaming services. I just keep I just keep everything on my computer as organized as possible. I just have one file for each book, and then some subfolders. Um, yeah, backing up, so important, so important. And this is an example of my writing process. I keep one free writing document, just one, because at some point I had all of these files, all of these Word files, documents, and I would be working and I'd go, where did I put that? Where did I put that again? So I decided I'm only going to have one free writing document where I'm just spewing out any thoughts that I have on the subject, and just one, and I'll let it build up and build up. And I like to manifest a free writing document that is 70 pages long, 80 pages long, something I just work on every day. And see this number at the very bottom where it says the number of words. So I will open up my free writing document. I'll look at this number here. I have 137 words in my free writing document. And then I'll say, okay, what is my goal for today? 1,500 words. And so I'll just put a little math, do a little math here, and say whatever, 1,500 plus 137 is, and say that's my goal for the day. And I'll start with that number. So I have one free writing document where I just kind of let all my thoughts down on paper, in Word. And at some point, oh, and by the way, I consider journaling as part of my as my goal, as my daily goal. It's so important to have a clear mind when you're starting to write, to have clarity. And sometimes it takes getting out all of those whatever issue that you're working through. So yes, I include journaling. So the time, let's say I get up to like 70 pages, 80 pages of this one document, and it's time to go through this and decide what is going to go into the final document. And I have two monitors here, and that's helpful, but you can also do it with tiled windows. So I'll have my working manuscript on the right side, and I'll just cut and paste from what I want. And I really like seeing the numbers grow on this because this is my book. Sivulliq had that, I believe the finished product was 85,555. And for my next book, I'm hoping to work my way up to at least 90,000. 80,000 is a book. It's a good solid book. One of my favorite tools in Word now is the table of contents, which you can set up and the very start of your document. And I really like this visual map of my book because I can look at these subheadings and say, I really need to work on building up the beginning of the school year. And these are hyperlinked, so you're not going, where did I put that one section? And I'll show you in just a second in this next. So these are hyperlinked, and then you can also see your table of contents on click the view and then the navigation pane, and then these little three dots here. And there's your table of contents, because at some point when you're writing your in the final works, you don't want to be scrolling through like 300 pages. Just makes it much easier. So another question that people usually ask is about my research, and I love research. And I like to tell people that I don't do research. I ask a librarian because librarians really do know where to find anything. So I will go in with a very specific question. I need to see suspicious deaths in Canada that happens at residential schools, something very specific, and then they'll point me in the right direction. I really love archives. I had the opportunity to go to, besides the ones in Alaska, to go to Berkeley archives, and it was just so wonderful, what in the short time that I was there, to see what they had on the Pacific Northwest in Canada and the US, is so fulfilling. And it really, I want to say that research is my highest source of inspiration. I definitely get inspiration from traditional knowledge, from myths and legends, and from history. But here's a building table of where I find where I find this inspiration. I build a spreadsheet of prompts, and this is just a little snapshot of things that I'll think about as I'm starting the day, as I'm starting my free writing. And it depends, of course, I won't go through every single one of these, but say I was writing about this volcano eruptions, then I'd go heavily on spiritual, because there it's like life and death. And then also there's the environmental factors, and sensory, rely heavy. This is just a small snapshot of my spreadsheet of prompts, and I'm happy to share this. I'm kind of building it. I've shared it on social media where you can just cut and paste from the post. Okay, publishing. It's so important that when you approach a publisher that is completed, because your project needs to be completed. I think the only exceptions are not nonfictions and also maybe a children's book. But if you're a fiction writer, you definitely you want the manuscript to be complete because they if they're interested, they're gonna respond back and say, yes, we're interested. Send us the whole manuscript, and you don't want to say, well, it's not done yet. It's so important that it's completed, or at least it has to be a very solid draft. Um, all publishers have inquiries that are similar, unless they are these larger publishing companies where you need a literary agent to submit your manuscript. But for the most part, they're all very similar. And introduce yourself with a letter of interest and attach the first 3 chapters, attach the first 50 pages, usually around there. And if they're interested, they'll contact you back and say, yes, we would like to read the entire manuscript. And I this was really valuable recommendations from one of my mentors. Um, join the Authors Guild. Even you can join the Authors Guild even if your book hasn't been published. As long as you've been offered a publishing contract, you can join the Authors Guild and take advantage of their free legal service. And the Authors Guild is about $125 a year. I believe that's the latest membership fee. But and it sounds like a lot, but compare that to bringing your contract to an attorney. And I have no idea how much that would cost, but I think 125 is a pretty great number. I have been very lucky to have mentors that are really supportive. Um, they they read my manuscripts and even going as far as reading my contracts. And they have really gotten me all the way through this entire process. So if you find somebody, yes, hold on to them, hold them up. And that is the end of my PowerPoint presentation. And you can find me on social media.
Awesome. Thank you so much for explaining your writing process. We'll hold questions to the end and we'll give Lily the opportunity now to read some passages from her book.
Great. So in this passage, the main character, she is a storyteller, and she is because of the circumstances, she has lost her passion for storytelling, and this is her return to storytelling. At the beginning of our travels, I couldn't listen. I was too exhausted. I lie paralyzed in sleep, stuck in that place between awake and asleep. a terrorizing and paralyzing darkness surrounded by piercing, high-pitched tones interlaced with whispers. Now I'm strong enough to listen. Do you know this place? They ask. I've seen this place before, but I've not camped here before, she says. What do they say about this place? I asked my husband about these houses. He was from this area and he didn't know. Maybe no one knows. We visit this place to think of our ancestors, about their lives, where they hunted, what they hunted. We'll never know their names or the names of their loved ones. Akka knows, Norak says. Do you? Do you know who built these houses? Nasu asks me. I see the people arriving, building, birthing, dying, and finally leaving in flashes, in still memories, like watching a mushroom grow from birth to death compressed into one breath. It was summer all year long. The whole valley was green with ferns, bright as the aurora. A thick layer of moss grew everywhere, on every tree branch, on every rock. Every step you walked on green moss, green as a budding leaf. Lots of trees, lots of large graying trees with rippling bark. A clear river ran this way. The sky rained for days and days on end. Even on sunny days, a mist stayed in the air like floating rain. There was a lake not far from here in the next saddle, the little valley over this hill. The water was so clear and calm. When you rode over the water, it felt like flying. The people chewed this root, the root of a sapling, something medicinal. They live long lives, over 100 years old, because of this sapling root. They wore shells around their neck, metallic shells like fish scales all around the shell. The shrew lived in the forest, big as a hare. Like a mouse, big as a hare, Nasu asks. A shrew with upright ears. I show them with cup hands, ears on top of my head. The boys laugh. They fear a large carrion bird, so large it didn't fly, it ran across the land. Ran, Nasu asks. It ran. The men kept their spears together on each side of the valley, looking out for the large bird and saber-tooth. They built these houses to protect against the giant bird and saber-tooth. But the cold started, the trees withered away, the forest died, and they couldn't find their sapling roots or fruits or plants. They couldn't live here. They died slowly over a few generations because they didn't like the cold. They didn't know how to survive. Stronger men and women migrated here, like me and you. They loved the winter, the cold lands. The people came with the mammoth. This entire valley, this slope, I see alive with lights from their herds. On the ridge, they bury their dead up on the stilts like we do, a reminder to honor their ancestors. They were like whalers. They hunted in their own crews with their own captains. This is how we learned to divide the whale between the hunting crews. We learned from our ancestors who hunted the mammoth. Every year they hold a festival for the mammoth. They dance a strange dance. They gamble and trade. They live generations and generations in this place until the mammoth died away. A man stood on the ridge up there looking down at everyone. They didn't get any mammoth that year. He spoke to them, his voice echoing and echoing. He speaks of finding another paradise. He told his people it was time to leave the valley, leave the lands. They go north to the sea to hunt seals, where they learn how to hunt the bowhead and beluga. He tells them to be brave and to think of their children. He says to pack all they have and go to the sea. It is a caravan of people, even the elders, and they leave the valley forever. I end the story and they're quiet for a moment. Beautiful. You have a gift, Kaya, a true gift. Where do you get these stories? I don't know. They come, I say. Akka is the best storyteller ever, Sivulliq says. They ask for Akka to tell stories at the feasts. Have you been to a lot of feasts? I used to go When I was young, I met legendary runners Iñupiaq, Kinnevak, Kakenok, this man from Kali. I forgot his name now. I've never seen men and women run so fast. They are all muscle, not a pinch of fat on their bodies. I didn't run, but I competed in the Inupiaq races with a Kali team. It is fun. Some people don't know how to row in a boat, but they could compete anyway. It is all laughs. Were there a lot of people? In Utqiagvik, there were more tents than the eye could see. The beaches lined with umiaks, a gathering like you've never seen. We danced and sang, and the earth moved. I bought a bracelet from the Inuit, dried seaweed from Siberia. People planned marriages and trips. There were no Yankee whalers, riverboats, or hell. I saw a shaman at Utqiagvik. We gathered in a dark tent. He sang, he danced. People say he knows the tongues of animals by carrying tongues in a bag around his neck. They say if a dying animal lands in your trail, it's offering its tongue to you. Cut it out, let it dry, carry the tongue, and you'll know the animal's language. That's what happened to him. Dying animals landed at his feet, and he received their tongues. At the feast, I saw him dance. Blood came from his mouth. His eyes went back. He spoke of my past. I don't know if I imagined what happened or fell asleep. I don't know how he could have known the things he knew. Raspberry baby. It was a joke between me and my husband. I've got a birthmark that looks like a raspberry. The shaman whispered, raspberry baby, raspberry baby. In other words, I couldn't understand. Maybe I fell asleep. I dreamt the shaman and I walked through a storm together. The wind was so strong we had to walk backwards. He looked at me as we walked backwards against the wind. I saw his face clear as I see you now. I thought, I must be asleep. I must have fallen asleep. I heard our footsteps in the snow and the wind howling. When he said raspberry baby, it was like his voice was near my ear, but he was walking. What does this mean? Walking in a storm with a shaman by my side. I think about this dream of his. Will they have it again? The feasts, the shaman dance. She didn't answer. She wonders how many people are alive. The boys knew what she was thinking and asked, how many of our people are alive? I don't know, but we're alive. We've got the vaccine in our bodies. Trust that there are others too. Time to sleep, time to dream of our ancestors. Pray the ancestors tell their stories in our dreams. Thank
Well,
you. Thank you so much.
such a powerful section. Okay, awesome. Do you want to read a little bit more and then we'll get to the questions?
Oh, sure. Yes, I'm happy to. I'm
Yeah,
happy to.
awesome. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, no, I am happy to share.
Mhm. Yeah, for those of you that are in the Zoom room that are students at Wor-Wic, if you take my Native American writers class, you will be reading this book because it is absolutely fantastic. And I think it's one of the best novels that I've read that represents indigenous Alaskan cultures.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to a little bit before this, before the reading that I just did. My scalp. A little more to the right, and he'd cut my artery. I hold my scalp together with my hand to keep it from slipping backwards, upwards, away from my forehead. Get a needle and thread from the sled, from my pack, and water, I tell the boys. They run. I don't remember anything. This bothers me most of all. I don't remember waking up this morning. I remember fishing last night. I remember nothing of this morning. Blood drips into my eyes. The sky turns pink. I press snow to my eyes and see a little better. We brought water. The boys kneel. Good boys, smartest boys. Help me, Sivulliq, help me get the bandage off, son. My hands shake. I remove the bandage from my head. The boys start crying. Don't look when I say pour the water a little at a time. Ready? Pour it. I close my eyes. The water burns. The water scalds, boils, freezes. I don't know. I scream into my fists again, like before, knuckles pressed against my mouth. A puddle underneath me grows. My blood mixes with meltwater. At first, my blood spreads like a pink flower, blossoming and unfolding in rosy tendrils, swirling, curling. Then the blood transforms to ruby tentacles, grabbing, reaching, clutching for prey. Akka, their faces whiten. My boys, I can't stop now. My hands shake. We're almost done. It's almost over. Is it clean? Make sure it's clean. It is, they say. Pour some water over my eyes. I can't see. They pour water and wipe my eyes. They look away from my scalp. I see now. We're almost done. Norak, you're all right. Let me see the thread. Peel it a little more. It's too thick. You two are so brave. It is caribou sinew, made from the caribou's tendons, transparent and tacky. Akka helped me dry, cure, and peel down the sinew for sewing thread. The sinew darkened a little with age, but is still strong and pliable. Except the thread is too thick. My skin would get big scars from this thickness. He peels the sinew down, hands trembling. I thread the needle. You're gonna stitch me. Akka, I can't. Shush, shush, shush. Hand me the needle. Hold the skin together, that's all. Don't look. Pinch the skin. I might faint. I might throw up. I can't stop now. He squeezes his eyes closed and pinches my forehead together. I'll sew it, Akka, Norak says. Can you? Yes. My little boy, the 8-year-old, his hands shake too, but he does it. I feel the cold tip of the needle piercing, pushing, and a pop through the skin. Pain arrives like a pack of wolves. I felt birthing pains, hunger pains, the despair of losing my husband. I taste liver-flavored pain. I cry and shake. He pulls the thread and I feel every bump of the sinew. As I suffer, my sons suffer. The stitch is working. I feel the tension. My children mend my skin like they mend my heart. You did it, son. How many more? 3, 4. We'll do 4. Can you do it? Yes. My children know how to stitch. They've watched the old women stitch up umiaks and kayaks. They know the waterproof stitches for our boats, stitches which keep our men between life and death, between floating and sinking. My children know stitches. Sivulliq holds my hand, looking away. I feel a shadow over my eyes. Looking up, I thought I'd seen my husband standing above, obscured by the sunlight. But it is a falcon, swirling in the sky in a large circle. 4 more burning pierces, but we do it. My sons do it. My scalp is together. We sit a moment in relief and in despair and in gratefulness, amazed at our accomplishment. I notice how quiet the day is. I listen for the ship's engine. I hear nothing. Can you knot it? I ask. Yes. Cover it with fish skin. Sivulliq, some fish skin. What kind? Pike? Yes, pike. I don't know what kind of fish skin, but pike will do. You did it, son. I'm proud of you. Norak holds my hand. He stopped crying. He wipes his tears. The boys bandage my head with fish skin and leather. I touch it. The bandage is tight. Help me up. My eyesight goes white sitting up. Are we ready? All right. We walk to the sled. The boys carry me most of the way, although I'm walking better than before. Your eye is red, bloody. Sivulliq looks at my right eye. The white part looks red. Yes, I've seen it before. The eye will heal. I'll make a salve. What is the name of the plant? Pink fuchsia. I see it but can't name it. Budding plant marking the start of winter. Fireweed. Boil water with budding petals, not old, dry, or fully bloomed. Fresh and budding. Boil it down, boil it down. Seep until potent and fragrant. Soak cotton flowers in the salve. Put it over your eye at night, I heard mother say. Let it sit, let it sit. Mother, are you watching? Akka, I'll steer, Ibralik says. I'll run, Norak says. Thank you. I climb in the sled. I remember holding my breath and telling myself to stay strong. I must have fainted. I wake up and the river is far behind. Son, where are we? I ask Ibralik. His eyes water from the wind and sunlight. We spent the winter months curled in our home, hibernating like those bottom-feeding fish, existing like ancient eel creatures living in the ocean ravines with bulging, filmy eyes and translucent teeth. We spoke little, ate little, moved little, and slept for days, hoping to dream of my beloved husband, their father, how we prayed to see him in our dreams. We see the ships. Can you? The ships are there. Good. I sit up higher in the sled. The trail is bumpy. I feel my head. Blood runs down my face, but the stitches hold in place. My forehead felt deadened, now reawakened with pain. We slide up into soft snows, and the boys stop the sled. They lead the dogs back to the trail snow. The dogs jerk the line, yelping and jumping. The dogs need water soon. The dogs don't listen, Akka, Ibrlik says, pushing the sled. They haven't learned to run together, son. Be patient. I pray for my sons. I pray for my ancestors. I pray to my husband. How could you leave me? I pray to my parents and grandparents, great grandparents, my great uncle who died from old age, who we found on the tundra, lying on his back, arms up, hands behind his head, like he watched the clouds passing by as he died. I pray to my mother's siblings who died from starvation years and years ago when a famine struck the entire coast. I pray to our ancestors whose names and stories are forgotten. Are you watching me now? Do you see my little sons pushing these starving dogs along the coastline after their sister? Do you see me, a mother, alone, starving, wanting to die, wanting to live, wanting to forget and remember? Do you see? It is a person, Ibrlik yells.
Hey,
Thank
thank
you
you
so
so
much.
much. That was very empowering for sure. All right. I'd like to open it up now for questions. For those in the room, you can either put them in the chat, or if you want, you can unmute and ask them. So I guess I'll get one to get. Okay, here we go. Would you please explain the line slash context? Stronger men migrated here. Is this a positive, negative, or just what it is?
Yes. Well, I want to believe that the stronger men and women that migrated were us. We're the whalers, because we thrive in Antarctic conditions, and the colder it is, the more healthy the Arctic animals are.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, one comment and question from one of my colleagues who teaches English. Your descriptions are detailed and rich. How do you develop those?
Oh, I'm sorry, you were cutting out a little bit at the end there.
Okay. Your descriptions are detailed and rich. How do you develop them?
Yes, I like to say that that the historical details are truly the teeth of the story. And I love research, and there's always this part where I have to tell myself, okay, that's enough research. um, a little self-discipline there. Um, but I do layer I consider it as layering. So because I'll have so many different drafts. For example, the first strong draft of this next book I'm writing about. It's a different environment. It's about a residential school in British Columbia in the 1950s. Excuse me, late 1940s to 1950. And for the first draft, what I'll be sending to a publisher for them to consider publishing is very very simple sentences. You not the details that I provided in like you'll see here. So let's say that I'm taking this first draft. I will say I really need to, and I'll break it down into different processes. Um, and this is where um, I found it useful to analyze writers that I love. For example, Gabriel Garcia Marquez, such a great writer of magical realism. And for example, um, uh, and it's so close and it's so aligned with our traditional way of storytelling. For example, I was born on April 28th, and I was named after my great grandmother, Lily Hank, who was also born on April 28th. Yeah, I was born on her birthday. And she raised my father in a sod home. And even in when he was being sent off to a residential school in Oregon, this was 1965. He was still living in a sod home with my great grandmother, Lily Hank, and it gets even more amazing than that. Lily Hank, she was adopted. She was found by her parents alone on the tundra, and she was wrapped in this bear skin, and she had a pot, like a large large enamel pot, some, cooking pot, and some other tools that were given to whoever would adopt her. And that's an example of, I believe that's an example of magical realism, is that I'm not just saying, oh well, I was born on in spring in Alaska and I'm an Inupiaq. I have these very rich stories that there seem so unreal that they're just magical, even though they're true stories. It's just, I think it's with Gabriel Garcia Marquez, it's very much focusing um, on these events that are just incredible. And I think that's definitely indigenous storytelling. Um, so I'll go through, let's say I wanted to focus on magical realism and adding that to my first draft. I will find, of course, you're not going to do it in every scene. I'll just, and for some reason, my mind just works that way, to throw out um, some other examples. I love Cormac McCarthy because his verbs are just so varied. And he likes to stick to this very simple sentence structure of he stood, he glazed, he ran. I mean, that's if you go through the road, that's you'll see um that his sentence structure is pretty standard through the whole thing, but it's his verbs that he uses that are I think it's important to vary that So at some point I'll say I need to work on the verbs, what actions are going to happen in this in this certain scene. And the other thing, I also believe in signs and receiving signs. That's just like a spiritual part of me. Maybe that's indigenous way of life, um, which, of course, you'll see across cultures. But I very much, some of these ideas came from signs. For example, having an African American whaler. That character actually started as a non-native white character. And there were some like a couple different things that happened that I thought, okay, well maybe what if he's an African American instead? And it was I attended the National Congress of American Indians convention, and the actor Danny Glover. Um, he was talking about, he was one of the keynote speakers, and he was talking about the relationship between African Americans and Native Americans and the history of that. And he's actually very active in indigenous issues. I've seen him Eskimo dancing. I've seen a video of him Eskimo dancing. It is so great. But I kind of went with that, and the more I researched, the more I realized, the more the realization came that what we've been taught of Yankee whaling has very much been colonized, and the whaling industry was very much powered by people of color. And I wanted to reflect actual history, not what we see in like Moby Dick or I think at the heart of the sea, where you have like they're all Caucasian whalers with like one Pacific Islander or one African American, which is not representative of the whaling industry. You have what I found in that research process is that there were entire ships, entire whaling ships that were all African American, from the captain to the greenhorn, and they're even like a oil mogul. Uh, yeah, mogul. Yeah. um, but anyway, that's my long explanation of how I get that detail in there. And because my mind is so busy, I have to focus on just one thing that I'm going to change in the process.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, another question. How do you make your settings atmospheric?
Yes, I love the idea that that we have this that land has memory. And I want to say the indigenous term for that, I think, this land-based knowledge. And I recently saw this documentary on Gothic horror movies, actually. I don't know, it's just interesting. I wanted to see about their process. And they call it's something similar, which I thought was funny. Like it's Gothic horror is very much out in the rural areas. You fear change, you fear the youth. Um, Maybe there's some type of cult there, but they call it when the land has memory, psychogeography, which I really like. And I think that's how I see a certain spot of take the land that you're on today and consider what it looked like 10,000 years ago and 5,000 years ago, 100 years ago. I really like the visual. If you've seen the movie The Time Machine with Guy Pearce, it's based off of the book. there's a scene where he accidentally pushes the lever and he's going through time. And you see the landscape changing behind him, all the clothes fashions changing. I really like that that visual of when I'm working on certain landscapes. Great question.
Okay, one more question, and then I'll turn it over to our president, Dr. Casey, for some comments. So, one comment and question was, I noticed that in your research, you listened to tribal leaders. Could you share something interesting you learned from them during your research, or something from them you added into the book?
Yes. So my previous profession was working in tribal government. That's actually what I went to school for. That's what I wanted to be. And so I did. I did for over a decade working for tribes, my tribe. And it was such a great opportunity to hear tribal leaders of my area um, talk about whaling and hunting and interactions with the Koyukon Athabascans, and it's hard to it's hard to bring it down to one. Well, one I heard recently is they told me that they learned this from my grandfather, who was a whaler. They still do traditional whaling in Point Hope. Um, that it's very dangerous, by the way, because you know it's whales can be aggressive, and so I heard the traditional knowledge tells you if you're in an umiak and a whale swims underneath you, that you're supposed to like bump their back because it will like startle them. It's something that you know could potentially save your life because they can just like in the paintings that you see where they're use their tail to flip you the boat over. And I was like, wow, that's incredible. That's some traditional knowledge. Another one, just a short one. My son is named after the late Captain Luke, and he actually caught a whale with with his two daughters. No one else. I guess everybody had packed up from the ice and they went back to I think they were going to resupply, and so it was just him and his two grown daughters, and they saw a whale, and then he jumped in and he told them to get in the boat with him, and they caught a whale. Just the three of them.
Wow, thank you so much. All right, I'd like to turn it over to Wor-Wic's president, who is here tonight, Dr. Deb Casey, for some closing remarks.
I'm sorry. There we go. Hear me okay?
Yes, yes.
Thank you so much for joining us at Wor-Wic. It's always wonderful to have beautiful authors who can really kind of transform through storytelling their experiences and help us understand. So I think that the strength and spirit of the indigenous people in what you shared really came out. And I think the preservation of the sea, of life, of family, was certainly something I heard this evening. So I thank you for um, giving us that opportunity. I was just sitting here and my computer's in front of me, and I don't know if you can see, there's my whale
Yeah,
right there.
yeah.
And I really like what you said about the magical aspects, because I think that people take for granted the magical components that are told through storytelling. And so for you to be able to articulate that in your writing, it's really powerful for us to hear.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I hope to visit you in person one day, the entire college. And I hope I can continue that in my current story, which is about residential schools. It doesn't have a title yet, but it's different environment in British Columbia, where I'm also from. So the rainforests of the Pacific Northwest
Mm.
got the core.
Mhm, mhm. Well, I came from the Pacific Northwest, and I work very closely with the Muckleshoot tribe there. I don't know if you had any connection to Muckleshoot.
Oh, no, Nisga'a, which is the very northern part of British Columbia.
Hmm, hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I would love to have you join us on campus at some point. It would be wonderful to have you be part of our community and to be able to share. So I know as we continue in working with David, I'm sure if there's a way, we'll make it happen.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Yep. Well, thanks everyone for coming tonight. And if you
Ah,
join us next week, Thursday on the 10th at 6:30, it's the same Zoom link. We are hosting our last writer of the semester, Pulitzer Prize winning African-American poet Tahimba Jess. All right. Have a good night,
thank you so
everybody. And
much.
please fill
Thank
out the
Thank you
you.
for
survey.
joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody.
All right.